And there we go. Hey guys, how's it going? Beautiful evening out there to everyone in the world. Welcome to Nature's Go Between podcast, where today we will be discussing, well, you'll see. Hope you guys are having a good day and good evening, like I was saying. And I hope that as time goes on, this will be a ritual where every time I start the podcast, um, it becomes, like a nice informal introduction. Hey, hi, how's it going? How was your day? What went well? What did not go well? How can you do better tomorrow? It's all about being a good citizen, and that's what I think the goal should be for everyone, regardless of religion, regardless of political views, regardless of ethnicity. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Uh, Podcast number 7. Today, we're going to just talk about something that I don't mind talking about any day of the week. I feel like it's not talked about enough. I feel like people talk about this, but they don't really reflect on it. And that's being that trees really are amazing. Now, I'm going to let that simmer, let that marinate, because trees really are amazing. So I want you to go ahead and think about the ways that trees help you, help me, help us. Okay, got it? Had some time to think? Okay, well, what I have to say is basically you can never overestimate the importance of trees. You can just think about the fact that as long as you can remember, trees have been around. Whether you were playing at the park, whether they lined your street of where you used to live growing up, or just seeing it on TV. You don't have to watch National Geographic or Animal Planet in order to really understand that trees are everywhere. However, there's almost a downside. We become numb to the fact of their existence matters to us, matters to all living beings. Okay? So trees trace back to over 300 million years ago. Okay? That's a pretty long time. All right. This, you would say, oh, trees are just old. Like everyone knew that. Yeah, that is true. If you've seen a Jurassic Park movie, you know that there's like a lot of ferns, there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of just general forestry going on. But you have to understand as well that ever since trees first became a big deal on this planet we call Earth, within this solar system, within this universe, within this galaxy, whatever. This was the turning point for us, for living organisms on this planet. So you have to think, in 300 million years, how many trees, or rather, how many beings, living organisms, did trees feed and house during that time? You can try to do some quick math, but I can tell you right now that that number is honestly unimaginable. Just understanding that trees live for hundreds of years, understanding that thousands of animals must have come across or breathed in oxygen from that tree, or took seeds from that tree to save for the winter, or anything like that. A tree was involved. So, do you know how many animals probably lived under the same tree over generations? And the tree doesn't pay no mind because it's just doing what it's supposed to do. So, if you think about it, as of today, there's about 3 trillion trees left in existence, like I'm saying, on planet Earth. We don't know if there's any other trees out there, but, just like finding water on another planet kind of hard to find a tree as well. So if you think about that, you got to come into account the like I was saying before, the fact that we take them for granted because it's like, oh, 3 trillion? That's way more than the population of Earth. So therefore, we got nothing to worry about. They're going to be here longer than humans are, this, that, and the third. Well, they've always been around, but the fact that they're disappearing faster than the rate that they have existed should scare you. This isn't a scare tactic by a lot of conservation scientists, climatologists that threaten you or say, you are going to die if this happens. But that's true. It is a true fact that if we have no more trees, oxygen will become so thin that it'll be very troubling for us, and not just us, but animals as well. You got to understand, mammals, share the same oxygen. Just because I'm a human doesn't mean I breathe in primo air and every other animal is on some B grade oxygen. I'm probably breathing in C grade oxygen right now with all the pollution going on. But regardless, you have to factor in deforestation as the main reflection of humanity when it comes to the well-being of trees. Okay? So you got millions of acres being destroyed every single year. You have millions of acres never replanted, never refertilized. So therefore, it's short-term gain for long-term loss that can result in desertification. And desertification literally is what you think it is. It's to turn something into a desert, to desertify it, to leave nothing else there except for, soil that has been dried up with no form of minerals or, no form of nutrients. And it just becomes a wasteland, a place that animals don't want to be or plants don't want to grow or won't grow. It's not even that they don't want to. Nothing can thrive there. Nothing can even survive there. So I brought this up on the previous podcast, but it really does grind my gears and boggles my mind that the things that we take away from Earth, we don't put back. I feel like a lot of this could be solved if we would just take our time to replant what we did. It doesn't even have to be at the same rate that we destroy. That, of course, is the goal. If anything, we should just be environmentally frugal. We should take more and give back more. I mean, take less and give back more. You know what I'm saying? And in the end, that never happens. You could factor in Africa rebels, destroying their land, or poachers in, the Amazon destroying that rainforest, anything like that. China industrializing at a ridiculous rate where they're turning everything into a wasteland just because of population growth alone, wanting to prosper economically. But regardless, that desertification is going to lead to wildlife decline, which may or may not affect us depending on how you look at it, depending on where your head's at when it comes to the well-being of ecosystems. But it also has to do with the fact that climate change is real, and desertification will only increase it and make it even more of a big deal in the near future. Climate change is already happening because of the other, petty stuff that we do to Earth. But it's going to become ever more increasing if we don't respect the trees that we do have, if we don't grow more. So you got to understand that 12,000 years ago, we have 46% less trees than then. So you're saying 3 trillion trees is enough for now, But before we had, 5.5 trillion trees. And I do say we because the human race 12,000 years ago, that sounds like a long time ago, but that's when we went from straight up nomadic behavior to agriculture being a thing, staying in one place, growing and harvesting and waiting for the crop for the next year and the next year. So trees relate to that because think how much land has been smoothed over in order to grow crops for human gain, for human production. So I understand that, but I'm also on the side of why do you have to destroy all the trees in order to plant that much? You could have left one or two, golly. But in the end, you got to understand that humans did not come along until much later. We're much younger than trees, than the existence of trees, and the fact that since we started, investing in, like I was saying, smoothing out the earth to grow produce, that becomes a factor because nearly 50% of all trees were erased because of that. And we didn't know or didn't want to plant more. Okay, I keep driving that point because it's important to note that all we had to do was keep the cycle going and plant something in return of taking. But humanity decided to not do so. And now we're in this predicament. So, over 60,000 species of trees exist in 3 countries, that being Brazil, Colombia, and Indonesia. Now, as you can tell, the 3 traits, or one trait they all have in common, would be that they all have an incredibly high biodiversity. So, the trees that became an endemic in those countries just continue to prosper because as the trees began to thrive, the animals began to thrive. And as animals thrive and use that area for, birthing new generations, for, using defecating, for anything like that, it gives, that forest or those forests, plural, the resources and nutrients it needs in order to continue, to be prosperous. So just understand that we we are a reflection of what we do to nature, and right now we're not looking so good. It's looking pretty bleak. Okay, so the fact that trees were around 300 million years ago or even more, based on what science tells us. And then you factor in that that's only, less than 10% of the Earth's timeline. They're already in critical condition. And we've been around for what, 2.5% of the Earth's timeline? So the fact that we come along and just destroy everything in our wake is just it breaks my heart, but it also sickens my stomach that we were living off the land and now we think that we're better than the land. And it's just we have omnipotent power and divine wisdom as to what to do with nature next. And I feel like in a way, climate change and natural disasters is Mother Nature's way of telling us, you're not above this. No, nobody is. Nothing is. Mother Nature is one with the universe. I'm not trying to preach spirituality, but sometimes you got to wonder, is it a coincidence? Is this a direct effect of us? Or is it sometimes nature telling us to knock it off? Like just a reminder that humans are smart and we are creative, but just brute force is our main weakness. We have to compensate a lot of times for the fact that Our skin breaks easily. Our bones are relatively fragile in the animal kingdom. Our sight isn't the best. We get sick fairly easily. Things like that. Look at vaccinations. Look at houses, cars, frozen food, just all these things that make our lives more convenient. Mother Nature has to come along and remind us that no matter what our advances are, we can't overstep her bounds. So the fact that we ended up fast forwarding a lot of things that was going to happen inevitably. I'm going to say this as much as I can, all right? Let me get close. What scientists are saying is, it's not the fact that climate change doesn't happen. It's not the fact that global warming doesn't happen, or that global cooling doesn't happen. Because a lot of times, the conservative side, or, anti-science people believe that, the earth will forever go in cycles. There's a reason for the ice age. There's a reason for droughts. We've gone through this before. It's just a feedback loop in reverse, essentially. That's not what scientists are arguing. They are arguing that are you ready? That we are increasing the rate at which climate change is happening. CO2 emissions, the overall heat of the atmosphere, how quickly glaciers are melting. Everything along those lines are coming from the human race, coming from a very anthropocentric point of view. So if you can't see that, I suggest you do some objective study and really understand what these scientists that are agreeing for once are trying to tell society. So then you have to factor in that before trees, so before that 300 million years ago, you have fungi that grew to be over 20 feet, okay? Now, it was called, prototaxite. And it was pretty much a large mushroom. That's the only fungi people really think about, but it's a very large mushroom that the trunk, okay, was 3 feet wide, but grew 26 feet. Okay, that is on scientific record. If I could, it's a very rare program, but if I could, I would definitely pursue like a program in mycology or bacteriology, because that is like the foundation of Earth. Like, did you know that, fungi actually share information and nutrients to every other plant on this earth through underground connections that has been created through the soil, through the fungi that has been here for 500 million years. So that might be hard to fathom, but like I said, I'm telling you, I'm learning about this as you guys are learning about this. So look it up. Look up mycology, look up prototaxite, look up the fact that the world's largest organism is a fungus. Okay, go ahead, look it up. It's not. I'm not the one to really recommend other podcasts, but type in Joe Rogan Experience, Paul Stamets. All right, I can trust his words because he goes above and beyond when it comes to the study of mycology. The study of fungi, bacteria, things in nature. The ecosystem of mushrooms, anything like that. He's the guy you need to talk to. I actually need to go buy a couple of his books and read up on them so that I become, more knowledgeable in that particular environmental subject. He's a strong proponent for legalizing magical mushrooms, um, lion's mane, things like that. So yeah, definitely listen to that podcast and then come back to here, because what I'm telling you is I'm not an expert, but I am a regular person just trying to learn more, who's passionate about protecting the environment that the future will one day live in. So we need to become educated now so we can pass on this information, to those that will eventually need it. I would hate for this to be a Library of Alexandria situation where we collect all this information, we don't pass it down, and something catastrophic happens where we can't reclaim what we already learned, and then we're back thousands of years again, and it's basically a restart button. I don't want that to happen at all. So what I'm saying is in this podcast is trees are powerful, trees are important, and we need to appreciate, protect, support, grow more, all of the above if we want this earth to prosper. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next podcast. Most likely tomorrow. We'll see. Thanks again. See you next time. Peace.